So why don't you just start off by giving me a bit of background about yourself, where you're at?
Well, it's kind of like when I was starting uni, obviously all of that was a bit hectic, but after everything calmed down with the drinking and stuff, I just with my spare time and all that, like when everyone gone off, uh I'd played a bit of Overwatch and I started playing like more and more. I just started grinding it out. I actually really enjoyed it. Um and I thought, and like recently I thought, like, because a lot of the times I'll get like gold medals and stuff like that, and gold damage and that, and a lot of damage blocks and all of that. But I wanted to move it to the next level so I can actually go higher and maybe join a team and something like that. But at the moment, I don't really know how to call out stuff, and I'm not 100% on positioning on like DPS and tanks and stuff like that. Um, but yeah, I'm kind of still novice-y. I guess I'm still like plat healing, but I'm silver tank. Well, gold tank, but I'd lost a couple of matches recently.
Okay,
Um, so
cool.
I'm just trying to learn a bit more about how to play the game, to be honest. Improve.
That works. Okay, let's crack on then.
I grow tired.
So this is around gold, like low gold, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What tanks do you typically play?
Well, my main Rhine is banned at the moment, so I can't
Okay,
play Rhine. But I recently started playing Zarya and Hog and Orisa.
that's a
Uh,
lot of heroes.
Yeah. Well, I tend to try and mold to the team because, like, obviously, like if you solo queue, everyone's sort of on their own. So I try to pick based on what everyone else picks,
Okay.
if that makes
In
sense.
which case, if you're gonna pick based on what everyone else picks, what would you pick right now? Looking at your team comp.
Um, so Diva, Hanzo, Echo, Moira. Well, this round I was playing with my friend, Mercy, and he kind of pocketed me most of the round, but uh, I guess maybe something like Orisa since Ryan's banned.
Yeah, I
Just to
think
have a bit of shield.
Arista's a really good pick here.
I can't really play Sigma, and I don't really enjoy
I
playing Sigma.
definitely wouldn't pick Sigma.
No.
So typically, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. Most comps consist of a main tank and an off tank. If we're just talking about the tanks anyway, right? So there are two different classes of tank. One of which is the main tank, one of which is the off tank. So typically you have one main tank and one off tank. Occasionally you'll have two main tanks. It's very, very uncommon to have two off tanks, particularly at a high
Hmm.
level. So the current composition that you're playing, both Sarah and Diva, are off tanks. So it's
Hmm.
incredibly uncommon to play this tank duo. It just means that you have very little sustain, and maybe it doesn't matter so much in gold, but in general, moving forwards into plat, diamond, this just simply won't work.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
so something to bear in mind. It's really annoying that when you tab out and tab back in and then click on the screen, unfortunately, it takes you off the character, which is something that's really dumb. So yeah, so basically you got to recognize that you have very, very little sustain right now. And they have a huge amount of damage, right? You're going to
Hmm.
get blown up very, very quickly, and particularly on a point like this, like where you've got to attack, you've got to get through a choke and get to the point. This is incredibly difficult without a main tank, because you simply don't have the sustain as a composition as a whole to be able to do that. And if
Right.
you're looking to focus on being a tank and you'd say Reinhardt's your main, well, then I would say you want to be a main tank, right? If your Reinhardt is a main tank, right?
Well, I
Um,
usually play either main healer or main tank. This
okay.
just switches between them.
In which case, if you're going to play main tank, then you want to play Reinhardt, you want to play Winston, and you want to play Orisa. Those are the three
Right.
characters you really have to learn. Everything else, it really doesn't matter.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
I've got a few hours on quite a few of them now ish. It's going up as time goes on.
yeah, so I think like if you really want to climb, spreading yourself too thin is going to be something that's really very it's going to inhibit your ability to be able to climb, right? You're trying to
Hmm.
get good at too many heroes that just really do not play the same way. You know, they don't fill
Right.
the same role, they don't do the same thing, they don't position in the same way. You know, they do very, very different things, and it's therefore very, very difficult to learn exactly what you need to do. So,
Right.
first of all, the first thing you really want to do is consider what role do I want to play in the game. Especially if you're thinking, oh, well, look, moving forwards, I probably want to play in a team. Then you just think, well, what role in a team do I want to fill? So if you're saying you're playing either main tank or main support, then figure, well, which one of those works best for me, and stick to one or the other of those. Now that kind of sucks because we've got a Zeruel here, and Zara's an off tank. So we can try and talk in more general terms, if that's what you want. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just I thought like for now anyway, I'd like to get just a basis of like the game, and like as you're telling me now, like all these things like I didn't know before, so it's good to learn these types of things.
yeah, so like I said, so in a team, typically everyone will have one role, and you'll say like play main healer or main support. We typically call it main support. Main healer is not a thing. Main support would mean so main supports are typically the supports with high mobility. So it would be Lucio, it would be Mercy, and Baptiste occasionally, but not that often, depending on the comp. Lucio is probably the main one. There are plenty of people that only play Lucio, and they play in Overwatch League, and they can only play Lucio because Lucio is just that good. So if you're going to be a main support, then you want to learn Mercy, Lucio, and Baptiste. If you're going to be an off support, which may be what you're thinking is main healer, so typically these would be paired with Lucio most of the time, and that would be Moira, Anna. Typically those are the two. Zen is also technically a flex support, as is well, Brig is kind of in a strange category right now. Probably a main support, I guess.
I mean, I've been playing a lot of Moira. Like,
okay.
I've got 30 hours on Moira now, and like I've got 16 on Lucio. And I've recently tried to start learning Anna, so I guess I'd be a off support. Is that
Okay.
that?
Yeah, it's either well, you either call it off support, flex support. People in Australia call it aim support. But yeah, flex support is typically what I'd refer to that as. Okay, well, and they typically fill similar roles in the team. They do similar things, right?
Right.
I mean, we can take a look at this from the overhead if that's going to be more helpful for you. If you just want to learn more about Overwatch as a game rather than your specific play in this game.
Well, we can
up
look
to
at
you.
my play. I mean, I think I did all right in this game. I just like because obviously I'm just trying to decide like what type of characters I enjoy more at the moment, to be honest. But I don't mind. It's up to you. Depends what you think would be more beneficial.
Well, let's see as we move forwards, because if your mechanics are incredibly good, then I would not aim for main tank, because you don't really need great mechanics to play main tank. But if your mechanics are very, very poor, then it's hard to play things that rely on mechanics, right? And if you, depending on whether you want to climb quickly or not, like that's really up to you. If you want to spend time grinding your mechanics, then you can do that, and you can play something that's more aim intensive. But if you're more like, I want to get on a team, I want to have fun playing with other people, and I want to get to a rank where playing on a team is, like it's going to be an enjoyable experience, I guess, which is probably around Diamond, then you're best off going for a role that doesn't rely on aim if your aim is not particularly, it's not a strong point for you.
No, it's like esports teams, they're not too fun.
Sorry?
Is playing at a high rank not too fun?
No, playing at a high rank is fun. Playing at a low rank is pointless, because people have no idea what they're doing. There is no sense of team play. Like,
well, you'll see this game. The enemy team. Wow, they weren't too good.
No, I mean, well, like you said, it's low gold elo, so I don't have particularly high expectations. Well, I mean, I have expectations of a low gold game, which is fair. But like I said, like if you want to play on a team, you probably want to get to around Diamond or higher, ideally. But certainly mid Diamond is about the kind of time you could start looking for a team. Anything less than that, you're probably wasting your time.
Right. So is there anything you can recommend which could help me climb up? Because a lot of the time I'll win like 10 matches in a row, and then I'll just suddenly start losing.
So once you've once you have won 10 matches in a row, you've probably about capped out. So you're probably the best. You're probably playing at the best you can be, right? Typically, I mean that's quite a lot of SR. And then you'll find that the people are actually just better than you. And part of this comes down to playtime. I mean, clearly you're level 175, right? This is very little playtime in the grand scheme of things, right? So that's something you've got to bear in mind. I mean, how often do you play? I guess right now quite a lot.
Like well, at the moment every day, because I genuinely do have fun playing it. Like it's quite an intense game, which I kind of like. But usually I'd probably let a couple of hours a day just to play it. To be fair, even while I was at uni, like just in the day.
Okay, and how much time do you spend watching your own gameplay back? I know what the answer to this question is.
I don't.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
the first thing that you really want to do if you want to start climbing is you start watching yourself back and think, what am I doing? And I mean, if you're at university doing any sort of degree, you'll watch back at yourself as a gold player and think, what the hell am I doing? What's my decision-making process here?
Right, yeah.
And ideally, you then also spend some time watching either professional play or streamers, people that are GM or above, and looking at what they're doing and what decisions they're making, how they're positioning themselves, how they're doing things. And trying to filter that into your play. And this is part of the reason as well why you want to typically, streamline yourself into one role, because there's just too much to learn. You'll find you'll have a very, very hard time, spreading yourself too thin, especially with not that much experience in the game. Like I said, as level 175, you don't have that much experience across the game as a whole.
Yeah, I noticed like as I was playing plat support, like a lot of the people were like a lot higher level than me.
So most people are like a level 500 or higher. Most people are silver border even, probably.
Oh, I mean, and then I was sort of like, I do like get like a lot of people say I'm decent healing, well, that when I'm playing with them anyway. But yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a look, and maybe I can give you some feedback on what I think you'd be best suited to.
Yeah.
So let's just start off like Zarya, her kit, what's she great at, right? So Zarya's a great off tank because she enables people to do stuff, right? Her bubbles allow you to take a lot of space for someone and enable them to take space, right? Move around, go from one position to another position, and or go aggressive, right? So to deal damage to someone depending on what character they're playing. So that's the kind of thing that we want to look for when you're playing Zarya, right? Enabling your team, and almost kind of supporting them in that way. So this is going to be difficult because you don't have a main tank. So there would, in a game that's diamond or higher, you simply wouldn't ever get through this choke. But you inevitably, I'm guessing, cap this map out given the length of the FOD.
Yeah.
Okay, so right there, like, how much value did you get from that bubble?
I guess I was I was just sort of trying to build it up for myself. That was all. That was the point of that. I'm trying to recently I've been playing a bit more Zarya, obviously because my main's banned, but like I'm trying to think when I'm playing, like, don't bubble just to get energy up, bubble.
I think bubbling to get energy can be fine. It's just bubbling someone behind you that is not. I mean, somehow your Moira manages to take 15 damage, but in the grand scheme of things, it's very little, right? You want to be getting that 40 damage off every time you bubble someone, right? So this is very low value for multiple reasons. One, right? You don't take any space with that bubble. That secondary bubble does nothing to take space. An alternative method, you could be using it to peel, right? So you're trying to keep someone alive who's about to take a lot of damage, such as particularly your Moira, right? She's your main support or main healer, I guess you know, she's someone you want to keep alive, she's very high value, you may want to bubble her in a situation where she's going to take a lot of damage. But again, this isn't that, right? They're walking through a choke. Like, if they're pushing out of this space, they're just feeding into you. Like, this is brainless aggression which does nothing for them. They've actually given you a map geometry advantage because you have hard cover here, and they have to go around it, right? They physically can't get back in cover when you always can.
Right.
So this is just a terrible decision from them, anyway, right? But in short, right, because of the foolishness, I guess, of their play here, this secondary bubble that you just used on your Moira doesn't get any value, right? And it's down for 7 seconds now, so that's 7 seconds that you just basically wasted, and you didn't get any value from that and even your first bubble here. I mean, maybe your first bubble makes a little bit more sense, right? Let's go right back.
Defend objective A.
So it kind of gets instantly melted, right? This is the kind of thing, and particularly on Zarya, right? Communication, you said, is probably one of your weak points. It's incredibly important. So right here, I'd be like saying to my diva, "Okay, can you push through the like? Are you ready to push up?" And he's like, "Yeah, okay, 3, 2," and like, you know, typically we'd do some sort of countdown in high level play anyway, and then you'd put the bubble on him, and you or ideally most of your team would walk through the choke, right? And typically that secondary bubble will be going onto your main tank. We don't have one.
Oh, if only it was that simple in gold. If only.
Yeah, if only your team would work together. Of course it won't, right? But okay, so they also don't have any sort of main tank, right? So they're just gonna let you kill their whole team for free. Again, how much value does that bubble get?
Yeah, I guess I didn't know they pushed back that much, but yeah, it wasn't a great one.
Like literally 0, right? Like they just actually got 0 value. And when you say you didn't know they were going to push back like that, they had already gone back. Like their whole team's already back.
Oh yeah, I guess that's just my low-level plays.
No, I mean it's not that. It's just like you're not thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just like, oh look, my bubble's off cooldown, I'll use it, right? But you've got to be getting value from it every single time. And so again here, right? So focus the Moira, she fades out. Who should be our primary target here? Who should we be shooting at?
Still the Moira?
The Moira. Yes. Why?
Yeah, still the Moira. Because it's important for the tank to take out the healer. Or I should focus the healer as an off tank.
Maybe not as maybe not as specific as that. It's just in general, the Moira is going to be the highest priority target because she's the one that's going to keep everyone alive, right? If she's dead, no matter how badly you play, they're still going to take damage and they're still going to die slowly, right? And you can play slow. You can do, you know, there is no rush for you to do anything if they don't have a healer because they will die slowly over time because they don't have heals, right? And that's why healers almost always are #1 priority. Most of the time, or not most of the time, as people get better, you don't often get the opportunity to get onto the healers. If they're positioned well, if they manage their cooldowns well, you shouldn't get an opportunity to go onto them. If they play poorly, which they will, you will have opportunities to go on them, right? And this is one of those times where Moira should be #1 priority. Don't worry about shooting this Zarya, right? You kill this Moira, you win. Not instantaneously, right, but you will win over time.
Yeah.
Right, so we're just getting distracted a lot by their tanks here, right? And, okay, great, this guy's shooting, right, but he's getting healed by the healers that are stood behind him, and if you kill the healer, then you can kill him, right? But if you pump all this damage into him, he's going to get healed up. I mean, again, they're playing this really poorly, right? But your #1 priority should be to kill their backline, right? Not their tanks. If they play very, very well, you will only be able to get on their tanks, and then it's fine, right? Then it's absolutely fine to shoot their tanks because you don't have the space to get onto their backline. But if you do have the space to get on their backline, then you should be focusing them, right? They are still the highest priority target. So like you said, you're waiting for your friend here. That's okay.
Yeah.
Again, how much value do we get from that bubble?
Not a great one, again, yet.
So this is 100%. I don't know, 100% failure rate on bubbles so far.
Yeah.
Your primary bubbles have not been too bad, right? And you notice, right, like, you use it here, you take some space, you push up, you take a shitload of damage. This is a good use of your bubble, right? In fact, you may even see a good bubble once you leave it here, because he's going to push in. No? Okay, that's not bad. It's okay. No one shot at him, which makes sense.
I do focus the hog a lot in this game.
And
yeah,
you notice what's happening here, right? He just heals himself, he's just walking away, he gets bubbled here, right? He wants you to shoot at him. He wants to be shot at. He has a heal ability, so he can heal himself, so he can do stuff like this, right? He is just a distraction. I mean, he's incredibly high threat. He can kill people very easily on his own, but once you've forced him out, you should be looking to pressure the point, and if he's on it, then sure, like, you have to kill him. But he should still be fairly low down your list, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then no, that's bad advice, actually. He shouldn't be that low down your list because he's so high threat, because he can kill people. And this is, again, like, there's a balance to be struck here, right? Like I said, healers are high priority if you can get to them. But if this Roadhog is, for instance, attacking your Mercy or attacking your Moira, then he becomes much higher priority because he's going to kill your backline, right? And then, at that point, you do need to be shooting him. So let's see if we can get another second bubble here. Just kind of eat our grab it.
I think there's one bubble I do.
Win this. Sorry?
Yeah, there's one bubble I do in defense in a bit that I thought was alright.
Oh no, I think this bubble here is okay. It's not that big, but it's okay. And again, here we think who do we want to shoot at? I mean, they're just kind of dying around us, which is great.
Yeah, this is a common theme in these sorts of games. They just sort of run in and go.
And just win.
Yeah.
You don't really have to think about what we're doing every
No.
So, we got to the very start of managing abilities, right? And this kind of thought process can go to whatever character you're playing, right? Look at that ability and think, did I get value from that? Was that helpful for my team? Did I maximize the value that I got from that, right? And if the answer is no, which it will be most of the time, you can think, well, how could I have done that better, right? What's going on here? This is so weird. It's so buggy, this mode. The spec stuff is really, really buggy for some reason.
Yeah, I've never used it before.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Well, now you will, because you can go and do this on your own, right?
4, 3.
Yeah, I guess I can look at a few of the plays that I do just to learn.
I mean, I'm not saying you have to do it right now, right? But it's something that will help you. And looking at, do you spend much time watching higher level play, watching streamers, watching Overwatch League, anything like that?
I've started to, yeah, because as I've understood the game a bit more, I can actually like watch it and know what's happening. But before I didn't, but now, yeah, I am starting to a bit.
Yeah, so something that may well help you is the Overwatch the OWL replay viewer, right? So you can go and watch them like we're watching this now, and go to the perspective of the player and see what they're doing, and when they're using their abilities, what positions they're taking, that kind of thing, right? There's a lot of macro stuff that you just don't really need to worry about, but you can look at what they're doing as an individual. Okay, so we actually now have a main tank here, right? Which is
Yeah,
great.
the Orisa.
We get ourselves a bit of energy. Okay, let's just watch this a little bit back again. So obviously this Roadhog's really terrible, right? But the second your bubble expires here, what should happen?
Go back to the team.
I mean, no, not what should you do. Like, if this Roadhog wasn't terrible, what would have happened already?
Hooked and just insta-killed.
Instantly dead, right? You have just walked into their whole team and just killed yourself, essentially, by playing the way you have done here, right? And I understand that you want to get energy, but doing it like this is going to get you killed, right? And I imagine this is something that, as you go up those 10 games, is happening, and they're like, well, look, we'll just kill him. And you die, right?
Right.
So this bubble is fine here, right? But you don't need to push this so aggressively, right? Like, you're not gaining anything by doing this, right? Other than putting yourself out of position. When you could just be
Right,
right-clicking, you know, maybe you stand in front of your shield and you use your personal bubble. That's okay, right? To get a bit of charge, because they're going to be shooting at your shield anyway. You can just stand in front of it, put your bubble up, but you don't need to put yourself this far forward because it's simply putting you out of position, right? It's putting you in range of the Roadhog for the hook, and once you don't have those cooldowns, they can just walk onto you, right? Like, yes, you're a tank, but you do only have 400 HP, and you don't have any mobility, right? If they walk onto you when you don't have these cooldowns, sorry, my arrows are really terrible. If they walk onto you, you know what I'm saying, right? They walk onto you when you don't have any cooldowns and no mobility, you're just dead. Right? And they've got Lucio, right? So they have the ability to speed boost onto you too. And that's just your life over, right? Just because of this one mistake. I do like that you're pushing the limit here, right? Again, the Moira should have been your priority target, right? Not the Zarya. She does anyway. Gotta be really careful you don't get booped here. You don't get caught out too far up.
Yeah, I was being very aggressive.
I mean, they're playing. They are playing really badly, right? So I understand why. But like that previous clip there, just because this Roadhog's a complete brain dead person, doesn't mean that you should be playing like it, right? Because maybe he does hit that hook for once in his life. And especially, like I said, as you go up those 10 games, you're going to get to a point where people will actually shoot at you, right? And then you will die when you're out of position. And that's something that you need to learn as you play, you know, as you win those 10 games, as you're on your high, you need to be thinking, well, look, what am I getting punished for now? How do I need to adjust my play? Because maybe you can get away with this here, right? But you try and do this at higher elo, and, you know, it doesn't work out, right? And here, like, you're walking out and that Roadhog's just stood on your left. I know you don't have sound, but the Roadhog's literally just stood there.
Yeah, I got that. I actually got that call out, and then I came back.
Right, and there's just no, like, the difference between you being there and being stood with your team is nothing for you, right? You can still right click these guys. They still can't ever walk through this choke, right? It's still really hard for them to walk through this space because of how much damage your team are putting through it, right? But I've got a sneaky feeling that at some point you're going to get caught out for being this far up, being this aggressive, eventually, and that's going to give them the opening to get through, right, and get onto the point.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I do in this game, but I have before, obviously.
Yeah, so maybe that's right. And we aren't backing up nearly fast enough. There is that Roadhog just stood behind you. You're also seeing a Zarya who's getting full pocketed by a Moira. And you're incredibly fortunate not to die here.
Yeah, if they were better, then obviously I would have died from that.
Yeah. That's a really nice secondary bubble. That's exactly how you want to be using it. Right, but I mean, they're also making a classic gold mistake where they're just, you know,
Pushing by themselves.
yeah, feed train one by one.
Yeah.
Which is a classic that we see in, I don't know, Plat and below probably, where they just walk in one by one and just hint themselves to you mindlessly. Nice. I mean, that's not bad. Except they now have ultimates, and playing too aggressively is much more likely to lead to you getting punished. So again, think about who you should be shooting at here, right? That Ana is definitely your top priority.
Yeah, I don't know where the Ana.
And you're like so hard focused on shooting this hog, right? When you could have killed this Ana with 2 right clicks on the charge that you're on. Okay, that's a very sensible hero pick for them. Because I imagine your Hanzo can't aim, but maybe you can.
I don't know. I didn't see any picks by Hanzo, so I don't think so too much.
So again, think about our positioning here. Okay, actually, I don't know. Your Orisa's done this, so this is interesting. If this Orisa hadn't done this, how great is where you are now?
It's Yeah, I don't really know what's going on here. Maybe if the Orisa was with me, then it
The
would have been a
response
bit
will
better.
be okay. I mean, the fact that she's gone for this push is okay because you're going to be able to go like this. And she's going to be able to support you that way, right? But we've gone so far around this corner, and I'm going to tell you, like, this is going to be interesting to see what you do here, right? But, right, this corners are super important in Overwatch, in games, in any FPS game, right? Because they are hard cover, right? You can play here, you can peek out, right? You can go backwards and forwards like this, and you can have hard cover, right? And that's giving you an advantage because you're invulnerable when you're stood behind this hard cover, right? And they have to cross this big open space where they don't have hard cover. The second you push up like this, you no longer have hard cover, right? And this is like the very basis of first-person shooters across the board. It doesn't matter the game, right? This is first-person shooters 101, right? You want to use hard cover where and when it is available to you. Something that makes Overwatch interesting is that it has shields and they're essentially movable hard cover, right? So this is why this is going to be okay. And on top of that, like, so your shield's going to basically, I see your shield break here, right? And then this guy walks into you and you die, right? That there is a world where that happens, right? Because of the position you've taken. Whereas if you're here, you shoot at him. Oh god, you're here, you shoot at him, you do damage to him. He doesn't have bubble, right? He's had to use bubble to cross this space. You haven't used bubble because you've got hard cover. And then once you force bubble, you've done damage to him. Then you can push around because you have some sort of advantage, right? Because you've forced his bubble, so you therefore have an advantage in that fight. Whereas here it's just like, oh well, let's just press W into them. I mean, we do actually have a multiple man advantage, which, you know, that does make this technically okay, right? But I can tell you with a fairly high degree of certainty that you have no idea how many people are alive. Almost certainly.
On their team.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you do, but there are
Nah,
actually
you just sort of take it as it goes.
Exactly, right? And this is one of the things that's, again, very kind of classic in this skill level is you just like, I'm playing my own game. I got no awareness of what else is going on around me, right? And that's something you've got to be very careful of, right? Because this is okay in this situation, but there's another situation where these guys are stood with this guy, right? And now there's 4 of them, and you've just walked into them, right? And you're not going to have time to walk back this distance. And if you do, by the time you've walked that distance, he's walked here, right? Or he's walked around, and so he can then shoot at you, right? And therefore, this hard cover is no longer good to you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes complete sense.
Okay, great. We're just kind of like brainlessly pressing W again. Like it's fine. It's working out, right? Because they're really bad. But I can tell you, in one of your, I'm almost certain that the games that you're losing are because you're playing like this, because you're playing so aggressive, and you're not.
Yeah, I
utilizing
mean,
that hard cover. You're not using the abilities necessarily how you want to use them, particularly on your defense here. You're playing super aggro, right?
Yeah, well, I kind of use the excuse a bit in this game that because they were so bad is because I'm this aggressive. But I do, if I think, like, I will, like, use this method a bit more in other games than I should do, to be fair.
Well, and like I said, this is where generally what I say about VOD reviews, you know, the best thing you give me is a loss, a close loss, ideally. It doesn't have to, you know, ideally a close loss is the best thing to look at because it will exemplify your mistakes best possible, right? Do you end up winning this game? I'm guessing pretty decisive.
Yeah, it was just the game I played like 10 minutes before we called.
Yes. So I mean, we're just kind of walking over them, right? They've got no clue what's going on, and like going for this push here, right? Their spawn's literally right there, you know.
Yeah, I decided against that.
Okay, that's fortunate because pushing him there would be just, I mean, that's just stupid, right?
Yeah.
Given where their spawn is. Okay, good. So, okay, I know this doesn't matter, but if I was you, I'd be pressing tab fairly frequently because. Why? Why would I be pressing tab?
Check for their ults.
I mean, you can't see their ults, but checking your team's ults, yeah. Why?
So you know what you can sort of like combo, and then you can call out, I'm gonna do this. I think actually we're just about to combo, like right in this next push, if I remember.
Yeah, so absolutely right. I mean, you're looking specifically for this ult. Maybe you're going to look for Junkrat ult too, right? Either one of those you can combo with Grav and just get a shitload of kills for free. You don't necessarily have to combo them. I think in this specific instance, based on the roster that they're playing, you don't need to because they don't have any defensive ult, right? So if you grab them and all 6 of you are shooting at them, they're all gonna die anyway, right? They've got no shield, they've got no defensive ult. They're just gonna die. Because they've got nothing to mitigate that damage, right? But in general, yeah, pressing tab in between each fight is great. 1, because you can check what swaps the opponents have made, and 2, because you can check what ults your team has, particularly if they're not communicating that. But checking what swaps they've made is also something that's really, really important to do. Okay, so they've got someone on point. What the hell is their Junkrat doing? And I think that secondary bubble there was justified because, we have no idea what HPR Moira is on. Well, I guess you do, because actually if you're playing Zarya, you should have allied health bars turned on. And you can do that. It is an option. I don't know why. I don't know.
I think.
Yeah, I don't know why I have it turned on.
I do have that on.
But it is, yeah. Okay, so yeah, great. Okay, and we waste. Oh my lord. Oh my lord. Okay, well this is great because we just wasted 2 ults, but never mind. We wasted Coalescence, we wasted Dragon, but I think we've won anyway.
30 seconds.
Just leave our Junkrat to it. So it's okay.
Time is running out. Everyone get on defense.
Probably could have just walked into that orb here and you wouldn't have had to go aggressive, right? Why did I go? I didn't mean to go. I want to go a little bit further back than that. Right, so you can probably just walk into this.
Right, yeah.
And that will give you that will give you a full charge if you use your
just this bubble.
Yeah. Some more Symmetra balls do a shitload of damage when they're full charge. 50? They do 50
right,
damage.
okay.
Something
I've noticed like when I've played Symmetra in the past, if it just like they're pushing, you just randomly launch a few and you might just get a pick.
Happen to get a kill, yeah. So I mean, you could simply just absorb this, right? You don't have to push aggressive. You're still safe position-wise. You've still got hard cover back behind you. Great, right? You can just bubble, eat this orb, go back, and then you're sorted. Right, instead, we're really far up again. I mean, I understand that there's only 2 people there in front of you, right? But there's this Roadhog behind you again, right? Who, for some reason, is incapable of hitting a single hook. But, again, like, he should have just got this kill on you. And unfortunately, because of this positioning, essentially your Orisa dies because you were there, right? Because you could have bubbled him. You could have put your second bubble on him when that came in. Okay, they're not even gonna touch. That's just it. Okay, great.
Yeah, that's the game.
Wow. Okay. Do you happen to have any others?
I
Maybe
do.
a loss?
Let's have a look. So this is a 1-2 loss 3 hours ago. Let's get that. Not sure I don't know what I was. I think I was tank again, maybe. Or what was I? I might have been DPS in this one because I wanted to play Echo.
Okay.
Oh, we'll just do this one.
I mean, we can have a look at your DPS if you want, right? And just apply the same method.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Let's. There you go. I think this is a bit longer of a game.
Okay.
Traveling to Eichenwald. Ready. 2, 1.
Oh, you're playing. Okay, soldier. Okay.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit of damage off. Obviously, I don't really know.
One thing that I just want to point out. So a couple of things actually. How much information do you have about the composition that they're playing right now?
None.
Literally zero.
Yeah.
Let's presume that they're playing Hanzo, Widow, and the 2 tanks that they're playing right now. How good is this peak for you?
Like the worst possible.
Like absolutely nonsensical. You're instantly dead. You just fared and lost your team first point just because you wanted to get 25 damage in, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're gonna get 10. You're gonna get 5% if you're or something completely shit here, right? Absolutely not worth it, right? This is the same thing. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about, right? This kind of aggression, completely unjustified. You don't have any information to make this cool, right? It's just incredibly high risk, incredibly low reward.
Right, yeah.
Right. And they have a Rissa Hog, right? So all they need to do is throw a pull you, hook you, you're dead, right? And you've just fed. Fortunately,
Luckily.
they're way too slow on that. We're going to spend a huge amount of time just shooting shields there, right? Again, right,
I
so
think so, yeah.
let's just. I'm just gonna watch your positioning here, right? We'll go back and we'll watch this again from overhead.
Ready for battle.
God's sake. Right.
5,
And just look at where your tanks are,
3,
and look at where your shields are,
1.
and look at where you are.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Right, completely irrespective of the enemy team.
So I pushed through the shield for no reason.
Not only that, but who are you not stood behind?
The tank.
The tank, right? What's the tank?
To be fair, the tank is a bit far. Okay, yeah.
I don't disagree. Your tanks are playing very poorly. I think that your tank should be stood way up on this corner, which is fine, right?
Yeah.
But just because they aren't doing that, doesn't mean that you should try and suicide into the enemy team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something you have to bear in mind. Like, just because your team are terrible, doesn't mean you should play like they're good. Because
Right.
like in the real world, right? Their Orisa stood here. The shield's like somewhere on this line, right? And you're fine. And this Orisa's actually doing his job rather than being stood behind the whole of your team. I mean, he's literally couldn't be ending any harder. He's got no idea what he's doing. But you can't expect him to have any idea what he's doing. You're in gold, right? And you've got to remember that like this is below average. So most people, like, if they're, you know, you're only level 175, right? Most of these guys are silver border and then they're still gold, right?
Yeah.
So they played a shit ton of this game and they're still at this level.
Yeah.
So just
I don't really understand.
Mind.
Like, that's like 500 hours on this game and
Yes.
still in like low gold. Like,
Yes.
Jesus.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Have you met the average person?
Yeah. Well, I guess since being at uni, I can understand how some people aren't too. Yeah.
They're not too bright. So you see the point I'm trying to make here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that your choice of positioning here doesn't make any sense. You're simply stood in front of your tanks when you can't justify it, right? If you're a Roadhog, no, even then it's stupid. If you're a Reinhardt, being stood where you were was fine, right? Because you can't get punished for it. But as a 200 HP squishy DPS character, playing there just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So I'd be backing up to think, where am I? Like, so again, look, we're literally the furthest forward person on our whole team.
Right.
Right, and,
Yep.
and whether you're playing DPS, whether you're playing support, if you can't see at least 2 dudes stood in front of you, you're probably too far forwards. And they're playing Orisa Hog, of all things to be doing this against, right? Of all things to be doing this against, they're playing Orisa Hog, right? The Orisa Hog, the pull hook, easy free kill combo, right? Of all the comps to be doing this against, this is the one that, I mean, makes least sense. Right? I mean, maybe if they were playing Bastion, it would make even less sense. But they're not. Right? But this is the kind of thing that you've got to be thinking about. Look at their comp and think, well, look, how do I have to play against this? I mean, it's not just the fact that you stood in front of your tanks, but even more that they're playing this comp, you should be thinking, well, look, I have to play even more passive because they've got the pull hook combo, right? And they can punish me very heavily for being out of position, right? They will just kill you because they have pull hook. Maybe again, okay, sorry. Maybe that's assumed knowledge. Maybe you didn't know that, you know, this combination of tanks is that potent, and maybe that's something that you need to learn, or I need to teach you, or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, I wasn't. I'm not too, like, obviously, because my tank is quite low. I'm not familiar with like good combos of tanks that much, to be fair.
Okay, well, it's certainly something that you can see if you watch some more professional play. I mean, you won't ever see this played because it's so weak, but it will punish people that are out of position, right? And particularly Hog. I mean, you know Hog, right? You know Roadhog. You know he has a hook. He's going to hook you if you're out of position, regardless of whatever this other tank is. There's a Roadhog who has hook. That should mean that you have to play more passive, right? If they were playing, I don't know, a different combination of tanks, it will change how you play, right? If they're playing Orisa Sigma, you don't have to worry about, for instance, like if your team were playing here and you were shooting in from this side, right over here, you wouldn't have to worry about that. But if you were doing that into this comp, because they're playing Roadhog, that wouldn't be sensible because they have hook, right? So they'll catch you out of position, they'll hook you, and then you'll be dead. Right?
Right, yeah, I understand that. Yeah,
So,
something to think about.
Looking at their comp and thinking, how do I have to play versus that? I mean, this is something that will come with time. The more you play, the more familiar you will be with things. And again, watching them back and thinking, well, look, I kept on dying to this thing, right? Like, I don't know, I kept on trying to flank and they had a McCree, for instance, right? And if you're trying to flank into McCree, that doesn't make sense because McCree has flashbang and he's going to punish you for trying to make that flank. Things like that, right? Where you see these mistakes that you maybe you didn't realize that character worked like that, right? But if you watch the game back, you learn something from it, right? Otherwise, how do you expect to improve without learning from what you're doing, right? If you're just playing without reviewing what you're doing, how do you expect to improve, right? It's the same as going to school, going to university, whatever, right? You don't just go in and you don't check, you've got to actually check something, learn against something. If you're just doing, it's not helpful to you. Without knowing whether the answer's right or wrong, you can't ever learn, right?
Yeah.
And it's I can't stress how important reviewing your own gameplay is to anyone. Because I think maybe 99.9% of people that come for these and have paid for a session like this haven't even reviewed their own gameplay first. Like literally, basically everyone. There's like I think it's a very, very small number of people that will come to me have had reviewed their own gameplay first, and basically done this for themselves.
Yeah, I'll definitely start doing it.
Which I'm more than happy for you to do. That's great. If I've helped you gain that skill, so you can improve on your own, that's great. I want to be able to supplement that, facilitate that if you want to have more sessions, right? But the first thing you've got to be able to do is be able to critically analyze it yourself, look at it and think, does this make sense what I've done here? Is there information I'm missing? Did I make the right decision in this moment? Even if you didn't die, right? I mean, I can do it even when you don't die because I've got a lot of experience. But for you, it might just be, well, look, each time I die, what did I do wrong here that led to this death, right? Because you can't necessarily extrapolate to, well, look, I've done something stupid here, right? But if you've died, you've definitely made a mistake. Well, maybe you haven't, but most of the time you have.
Right.
So we're still a really long way up, right? And your Echo is making exactly the same mistake as you, standing well in front of your tanks, right? And gets punished for it. That could just as easily been you, right?
Yeah, one thing I have noticed is Echo is really squishy. Oh my god. Even though she has 200 health, she's very squishy.
Right, like Orisa even has a bloody line that says, please get behind the barrier. Right? And you could be doing exactly the same as what you're doing, right? This whole time, you could have done exactly what you were doing, but you could have been stood here, or you could have been stood here. Right?
Right, yeah.
And you would have had distance. Even more importantly, like not just at the same position as your tanks, but distance behind your tanks, so it's very difficult for them to access you, right? Because they have to kill these guys that are long in front of you. And if they were, say, playing a comp that had Lucio, they may go fast, and if you're close, then you actually need to go quite a long way back. And that's something you can abuse with Reinhardt, given that he's your main, right? Like, so if they've got a lot of people stacked up in one space, if you're able to close the distance with them, then obviously you can cleave a lot of people in one spot, right? If they don't put distance between their tanks and their squishy people. Okay, I don't want that on the screen. again.
Pushed pretty
I mean,
hard.
like you're still, still in the middle of their team, mate, right? Like,
Yeah. So
and you finally get punished for it, right? You finally get punished.
So a
for
better
it.
decision would be to have gone the other way round with my team and use the ult.
I mean, I think after you altered it was fine. I mean, we'll go back and watch it. Yeah, God's sake. Okay, no, we'll just go back like that. And this. And this. We can watch it from the overhead because it's fine, right? We saw it from your perspective already. Like, the ult itself is fine. Like, you see the opportunity, you see the echo in the air, you're like, look, I can get a free kill. You go for it, you get the free kill. Fine. Kill the soldier. I mean, it would have been nice if you didn't realise that this guy was here. And if you'd been stood behind your team, you would have known that the soldier was here, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But instead, you're shooting at a tank rather than this guy, who is doing exactly what you do most of the time, right? I mean, you look at him compared to his team.
Yeah,
right?
true.
But because you're so far forward, you don't even notice him. So, and then you're still walking in, right? And again, this is a combination of tanks that you can't walk into. It's a team comp that you can't walk into. So you get punished for it, right? You didn't need to do anything. You got one kill. Fine. I mean, it's not ideal. You would have liked to get 2 kills with your ult. You know, that soldier was there for you. But never mind, right? It's not the end of the world if you only get 1 kill with your ult. It is the end of the world if you walk in and die on a capture point, right? Because they have the spawn advantage, right? So this distance is much, much shorter than this one. They're actually very similar on Icon World, but this one is still marginally shorter, right?
Yeah.
So if you die here, you've given them a big advantage. Right, so automatically you have to play more passively, and we've already pointed out multiple other reasons, such as the composition, that mean you have to be playing extra passive, right? And even your composition, right? Your composition based around the Orisa Sigma with this, typically we would call a poke composition, right? So there are kind of 3 main types of composition in Overwatch: brawl, poke, dive. I can send you a video that I did about this that kind of covers it.
Yeah, that'd be helpful actually, because I have heard a few like calls like that on a few teams that I've played with.
So this is
and
like,
I haven't really understood it. Yeah,
so this is like a poke composition, which again, like, it's something that I can go into in that video because it's like the very basis of macro being team play, right? We forget about what individuals do. How does a team form to make a different strategy, right? So like I said, there are kind of 3 main types of composition, and this would be classed as a kind of poke composition where it wants to play slow, it wants to break shields. Maybe you want to be pressing aggressively on an angle to get damage into people, like you are here, but maybe, you know, your Sigma's with you. And if your Sigma's with you, and say your Orisa has pushed this direction, right? So your Orisa's here, and you're here with your Sigma, that's going to allow you to get damage into their backline, right? And that's kind of like a poke. And it doesn't play quick, right? It plays slow. It plays around dealing damage to them like that. Whereas, let's say you're playing Reinhardt Zarya with Reaper and Mei and Lucio and Moira, then you're playing the kind of comp that just wants to walk at them, right? You walk at them, and we call this like a brawl comp because it brawls. Or some people might call it rush. Some people might call it death ball. So death ball, brawl, rush. That's the other type of comp, and that's probably the most common type of comp in Overwatch. But like I said, it's something that I will send you. It doesn't cover it in a huge amount of detail. I mean, it's aimed at people with a fair amount of knowledge actually, but maybe it will give you some. It will give you some insight into it. Actually, there is something I can send you. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
In fact, no, I'll grab it afterwards. I'll grab it after the end. We'll finish this and then I'll look for this.
Adaptive circuits engaged. Sigma.
So this is great. You're on a flank now. This is awesome. But what? What do we not have to do here?
Push.
Don't push. Exactly, right? The angle is great. You've got access to the backline, right? But do it from a safe distance. You can just chill here, have hard cover, shoot at them. You're killing the shit out of these guys, and they're like, oh, what the fuck do I do, right? They have to walk in there. They have to walk back. One or the other, right? You're going to force them to do something stupid to make a mistake and or kill one of them, which is great. But if you walk up into them, you're probably going to get yourself killed.
I think I do walk up into them.
Right. Right. And they've got pull. They had pull. Maybe maybe it was on cooldown. You were very fortunate, right? But you should have got punished for that. Okay. Fortunately, you've got hard cover, so this is good, right? We can play around this hard cover. We can just kite that, walk away. Now he's like inting his tits off. He doesn't get punished for it, which sucks. Okay, we use our restoration. And actually, the way that you play this is actually not that bad. I think you actually play this pretty well, this fight. Right, you kite him, you use the hard cover effectively, you go back even for a health pack, right?
Yeah, it's
that's good. You could if you played like if you made the decisions you made in this moment every single time, you'd probably even be diamond.
Oh really?
Seriously, yeah. I mean, it's a very small difference.
So is it just like the mitigating the aggressive play and changing it for a passive
I
that
mean,
would actually be beneficial?
I think a lot of the time you're just not really thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
Because there are times when you want to be playing aggressive, right? If you're playing a particular hero, if you're playing a particular composition, then you do want to be playing much more aggressive, right? But analyzing when it's appropriate to do so. Right? How good's shooting at this Echo right now? If you're actually going to hit him, then cool, right? But let's say you miss every shot, which you just did there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It would have been much better to focus your damage on that shield, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to realize your limits. If you're not going to hit those shots, then don't waste your time making them, right? That's damage you could have put into their shield.
Sometimes I'm on alright aim. Sometimes as there, I'm not too good.
Okay, so our Sigma dies. What do you think we should... in fact, I'm going to go back. So, maybe you've pressed tab. Maybe you've just looked at yourself. What should we be thinking at the start of this fight?
So we've got one ult and a tank down.
Mm-hmm.
I guess just play behind the tank that's remaining and aim for the healers.
Yeah, maybe. So, what I have in mind, what I would be doing if I was you in this situation, right? So I'd be thinking, I'm really close to my ult, right? So you're 85% your ult, right? So first of all, we're chilling where we are, we're getting damage in, we're looking to charge that ultimate, right? We lose this tank, we lose this guy, so we're like, ah shit, we're still doing a bit of damage, right? We get that poke in. We pretty much got our ult now. So we're one down. We've got our ult. And we be thinking anything in particular?
So the Echo is out of position.
Yeah,
so
maybe he's a free kill. Maybe he's a free kill if you get to ult.
That's a free kill. Moira is using her ult, so it'd probably be best to find hard cover.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for here, right, is that you need to be thinking, how do I position myself best to use my ultimate here, right?
Right.
Because the only way you're going to win this now is you're going to have to get multiple kills with your ult, right? They're walking in. They've got a man advantage. The only way you win this is by getting kills, right? By bringing this back. So
yeah,
this is the kind of time where you need to be thinking, I need to make an aggressive play, right? This is one of those situations where you can put yourself a little bit on the line, because the alternative is they walk into you and you lose, right? Because you've got a man disadvantage. Because they've killed your Sigma. There are a few ways you could do this, right? You could take the aggressive play. You could look for this flank. Or my preferred option in this case would be back into this house, take this high ground. And if your
I
team
was just about to say
your
that.
has gone back here, right? You're on high ground and you're going to look to be able to access the backline from up here, right? But the key thought process that should be here, right, is we one down. Okay, look, guys, play slow for a second. I'm gonna play slow. I'm gonna reposition for my ult, right? you either go this way and you get a flank onto the back line, or maybe this guy, like there's got loads of squishy guys so you can just mow down with your ult, right? Or play slow, your team walks back here, you walk all the way around, come back onto high ground, and then you can look to ult from here, right? An advantageous position, gonna give you great line of sight onto every target that you want to get on, right? So let's just see what we do. Right. Okay, we just
I died. Which is unfortunate.
I mean, and part of this as well is probably about not backing up early enough, right? So we see our Sigma just like int into them, which is, you know, he makes the mistake of, oh wait, they've got a hog, shit. So he just dies. And the second you see this coming out, right, you got sprint, you know, you're one of the few people in the game. In fact, you're the only person in the game that has the ability to sprint, right? This is a great time to just sprint for the high ground, right? Go back, get the mini pack that's under here. Ooh. And then go onto high ground, right? And then you're all set to ult. And by the time you've made that rotation, they're probably on point, right?
Yeah.
Echo does feed, which is okay.
Ability is decent, to be fair. The one where it's like they're under half health.
The laser is completely OP.
Yeah, it does a lot of damage. Like
Okay.
I did it earlier and it melted a hog.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
mad.
it's completely ludicrous. Okay, so
Stop
we've
the payload.
pretty much got to the end of our time. So let's just summarize where we're at, right? So this is the kind of thing, like I said. So at the end, each time you do your review, you got to think, okay, well, what do I need to do to improve, right? What are the objectives that I can set myself that, like, I could, you know, what's my checklist? What do I need to tick off to say, look, I'm now better. I've actually improved on something, right? So why don't you give me some of the things that we've talked about?
So don't pointless push. There's no point in doing that.
So
Use
recognize. Sorry, I'm just typing it out for you, so you have these written down. So
yeah.
When you can, or when you should, and should not push. Yeah.
Use hard cover more. Would be a good one.
Hard cover, where possible. I'm just gonna make the point, when you're playing a squishy character, when playing I'll put squishy in. Squishy. Stand behind your tanks, right? It just doesn't make any sense to be stood in front of your tanks. Behind your tanks. Anything else?
Aim for healers. Well, prioritize healers.
Yeah, so understand priority targets, or think about...
Or prioritize support, sorry.
Think about priority target. So like I said, it isn't always the supports. If they've got a tank that's in your backline, you should be shooting at that tank because they've isolated themselves, right? But if you have access to their supports, often it's a good play to kill their supports, right? So yes, the supports are high priority if you can get to them. I'm going to say safely, right? Because if you go in, you kill the support and you die for it, I mean, technically that's worth, but a lot of the time your team will get baited into going out position 2 and they'll often get themselves killed as well.
Yeah.
Anything else? I got a few more.
I guess think about when I'm using my abilities.
Exactly.
Rather than like just using them because they're there.
So aim to get maximum value from your abilities. Don't just waste them on cooldown. Absolutely. Okay. So I've got recognize when you should and should not push. Use hard cover where possible. When playing a squishy, stand behind your tanks. Think about priority targets. Supports are high priority if you can get to them safely. And aim to get maximum value from your abilities. Don't just waste them on cooldown. I'm going to even add actively think about how and when, or when and how you should use them, right? Another thing, you've got to look at their comp, right? You've got to look at their comp and think, how do I have to play against this, right? Because if they're playing Orisa Hog, right, you don't want to get caught out of position. You don't want to get pull hooked. That means you might want to play more of your tanks, right? They're playing Ryan Zarya. Obviously, Ryan's banned right now, but they're playing Ryan Zarya. You don't want to play close to your tanks, right? You want to make sure there's some distance so that the Ryan doesn't get in and start cleaving you, right? Because if the Ryan's melee range of you, you're just dead. So looking at their composition and thinking, how do I have to play versus this, right? And you can do this once 15 seconds of the round have passed. That's when you can automatically see their composition, right? So press tab and identify how you should play versus that composition. And this can go, so this is something that can be this is something that you'll find quite difficult, I think, to start with, because macro is not a strong point for you. But it's something you should start thinking about, right? And particularly as you get towards playing like in a team, you do need to identify, like, how does our composition, how do we as a team play against their team, right? Do we want to play fast and aggressive? Do you want to play slow and try and do damage to them, right? Like, how do we want to play? What kind of pacing do we want to take? What kind of positioning do we want to take? And those are the kind of things you want to start thinking about, because the composition that they're playing affects how you're going to play. And like I said, this specific example here where they're playing the Orisa Hog is a really great one of like, well, look, we should be playing. It's just another reason why us playing so aggressive is a poor decision. Anything else you think we've said that I should add?
I think that's the main points. We went over a lot, to be fair.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, I think we kept coming back to some of the same points with the plays.
Yeah. So trying to meter your aggression, right? Like knowing when you should and shouldn't push, because a lot of the time we're way too far up. Any questions?
I think I'm alright for now. I think I'm just gonna probably go off and play a few matches and see if I can take a few of these points on and like just implement it into the game and see what I can do.
Okay, great. Awesome.